Today on the show, we bring on Justice Bigbie of the Tigers organization.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Friday, November 3rd, 2023. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen every single day. And today we have a special guest. We bring on Justice Bigbie, tuning in from the Arizona Fall League. How's it going, brother?
Good. How about you? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course, man. Of course. Well, everybody honestly is like, you're kind of the talk of the town in these neck of the woods after a phenomenal 2023, obviously then going to the AFL. So get some more ABs under your belt. Just talk about the 2023 season as a whole for you and just kind of the, I don't want to call it like rise, but the, putting your kind of name on the map and having a great year.
Yeah. I mean, it was obviously, I had a pretty good year, and I think, that was something that, from last year going into this year, I believe that I could do. And I think that was the biggest thing for me, is just kind of believing that, I can play with these guys, and I had more to show, coming back from last year, and, it ended up being a really good year for me, and, trying to keep it going.
For sure. Well, I guess we'll call it the rise through the minor league system is something that obviously a lot of people keep tabs on. And it seems like the last couple of years, the Tigers organization has had a couple players who really did kind of do what you did this year and really put your name on the map. Like we were kind of talking off air before, like Kerry Carpenter last year was a big guy that everybody kind of like turned heads and put his name on the map. And I really genuinely feel like this year that was kind of you. Talk about the pace, I guess, like, did it go by like really quickly? Like, I feel like when you're hitting the ball really well and you're obviously moving up through the system, throughout the year, like how does that, what's the mentality there? Like, how does that feel, I guess?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, it was different. Playing on, playing in West Michigan and playing on 3 separate teams this year. It was definitely, it was different, but it was awesome. I mean, you had a bunch of teammates, but you kind of had known, got to know some of those guys in spring training a little bit. So, going through the system a little bit this year, was definitely awesome. I mean, all the guys were awesome. All the coaches were unbelievable. And helping me out and doing everything that they could to, help me and get me to where I want to go. And it was definitely, I mean, obviously baseball season, it's a long season. And it only gets longer if you play in the big leagues. It's baseball season is definitely a grind, and it's but it's an unbelievable experience. I mean, it's something that this is what you dream about as a little kid is playing and doing these sorts of things. So it was definitely it might be my second full year, having a little bit more experience coming into this year, expecting kind of what to expect, and it being your second go around, I guess definitely helped a little bit as well.
For sure. Well, you kind of mentioned it there, and that was a question I had for you going into this, was who are some of the, whether it is teammates or whether it is like coaches, who are some of the people that along the journey have been like important figures to your like development on the field?
Yeah. So when I got to AA, Matt Malott and Francisco Contreras were both, and I guess Juan, but he was the pitching coach in AA. All those 3 guys were the coaches in low A last year that I was when I was there last year. So I was with those 2 guys specifically pretty much the whole year last year. So I kind of got to know them. They got to know me. And that was something that I think that was very beneficial for me, was, the transition from high A to AA, with those coaches as well. They were able to really help me out. And I think, as you move up, going from West Michigan to AA, having some guys that you were with in West Michigan, like Chris Myers, Ben Malgeri, Jace Young, all those guys. I mean, they kind of were in West Michigan at the beginning of the year, and then we make the jump to Double A. So you're kind of playing with a lot of the same guys, which makes it makes it easier, especially the transition and everything like that. So that was, I mean, those are just a couple of the names that come to mind right away.
For sure, yeah. I'm not trying to make you get in trouble by not mentioning anybody either, but you had mentioned a couple names there. Malgeri and Young obviously moved up and had really solid years too. What was that like? Like you said, kind of moving up with them, and then like you and Young specifically. I mean, you guys really knocked the cover off the ball the entire season, and were two of the best hitters in this entire minor league system this year. So what was that kind of like playing with each other for so much, moving up at similar times, and then just both of you kind of mashing at the same time too?
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, like you said, Jason and Ben and Chris and me, Ben and Danny Soretti were roommates in Erie, which was awesome. Cool. I mean, we talked baseball till probably 1 a.m. most nights. So that's just that was just the fun experience that I had. And I mean, and Jace had an unbelievable year. I mean, put up just crazy numbers. So I mean and being with him in the fall league also has been awesome. I mean, just learning from him and seeing continuing to push each other and make each other better, which is always really fun.
For sure. Well, tell me about the Arizona Fall League. Obviously, you and a handful of guys got sent out there to get some more at bats, and obviously, like Job and Flores to get more innings under their belts. Just talk to me about the experience. This is your first time in the AFL, yeah? So tell me about just like the experience of going out there and how beneficial it's been for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's always beneficial getting more bats. I mean, that's always as a hitter, that's always something that is going to continue to you can continue to improve on. But it's been a great experience. I mean, you're playing with some unbelievable talent. I mean, everybody. I mean, every arm you face is really good. You're every hitter that's in the other team's lineup, it's in our lineup, really really good. So it's really cool to be around these guys and kind of see how they kind of go about their business and what helps them, what kind of how they look at the game. I think the kind of the mental side of the game and how other guys view sort of the game, I think is something that can really really help. And I think being around these guys has been really beneficial.
For sure. Well, you had mentioned in there talking about just like looking at other people and the adjustments that people made and whatnot. And I think one of the big questions that everybody has for like you specifically is what kind of adjustments you made from last year to this year. And last year obviously was you were kind of like thrown into the fire a little bit. So maybe it's just as simple as like getting your legs under you and getting some solid at bats. But like this year, you really exploded, and obviously, and we've mentioned that a few times already, not to embarrass you, but like I think a lot of people are kind of wondering, what adjustments you made, whether it was mental, whether it was physical, like in the batter's box. What was so different about this year than last year for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of going with the mental side of the game. I think just really being able to deal with the 400, 500 at bats that you're going to get in a season. I mean, you're going to get out a lot. I mean, that's so that's something that I think coming in for my second year, I was able to kind of build off of, mentally being able to learn from the failures and kind of, go from not just getting, obviously getting frustrated, but that's part of it. I mean, that's kind of, part of the game, but I think learning from that. And I think going back to in 2022, I had a good kind of end of the year from late in the year in Low A in Lakeland. And then I moved up to West Michigan and I finished really strong there in West Michigan. So I think kind of just continuing what I was doing well there late in the year and moving that into this past year, 2023. I think that was something that really, really helped. And I think I was able to continue that success and go into the offseason and say, look, this is what I wasn't doing in the beginning of the season there, and this is what I was doing at the end of the season. This is why it worked. This is why that stuff didn't work. And I think being able to self-analyze yourself was really important for me.
For sure. Well, I love analysis. Like that's
Yeah.
that obviously, right? Like that's kind of the whole point of the show. And something that I ask a lot of people, and I have very varying of like a widespread different range of answers. There's some people in the organization, some players we have on that don't use like numbers and analytics too terribly much, and then there's people like, oh my goodness, I had Brendan White on, and like that dude that dude knows his numbers
Yeah.
and went like really in depth about like the analytical side of things. Where do you, not where do you stand, but when it comes to your development and when it comes to making adjustments and whatnot, what are some of the things that you're looking at, and what are some of the things that you're adjusting based on, whether it's numbers or maybe you're a film guy, whatever? Like, what is your main kind of source there?
Yeah. I mean, well, obviously, I mean, the analytics part of the game has grown, a ton in recent years. And I think when I was in college, I had zero idea about any numbers at all. I had zero clue, zero knowledge on it. And I think kind of coming into pro ball, you kind of get introduced to this sort of stuff, and it kind of is a little bit weird at first. You're like, okay, I don't really know how I feel about this. I mean, I don't really know what to take from it. It kind of is a lot at once, I guess you could
For
say.
sure.
And I guess when I had gotten to Lakeland in 2022, Mike Rothenberg, who was in the same draft as me, we were in Lakeland together, and he was very, very smart at all of that stuff. And that was something that I learned from him, was learning the pitch metrics, kind of how pitches move and what you see in the box. And this might have this certain metric in it, but in the box, it doesn't quite look like that.
Sure.
So I think learning from him was a huge help. He was an unbelievable help to me. I think we both, I learned from him a ton. And then moving into this year, like Matt Malott in Double-A, he was a big help with it, as well as Francisco Contreras. They were just kind of learn. I mean, I like to just learn as much as I possibly can, and then take what works for me. And then if it's too much, just kind of push it to the side a little bit and say, look, it's kind of, I'm getting too
Sure.
far over my head a little bit. But I mean, from the hitting side, I mean, there's a lot of metrics that you can look at too. I mean, you have the launch angle, exit velocity, and we have a system with the Tigers that'll, quality contact and contact rate score and swing decision score and all that stuff. So I've been really diving into that kind of this past year and kind of seeing what I need to continue to do well and what I need to work on. I think that has been a huge thing for me.
That's awesome, because I feel like and obviously, you haven't been like a part of the organization for like 5-6 years, so the changing of the regime didn't affect you maybe as much. But one of the things that a lot of the fan base, at least, has really noticed early on in like the Scott Harris and really the AJ Hinch kind of era is something that you mentioned there, which is like the swing decision, right? Like choosing which pitches to swing at and which not. And like, you can take a strike if it's here, because you can't do damage on it, and like, et cetera, et cetera. And that dominate the strike zone moniker has like exploded through the fan base. And it's very much something that like everybody, people, I think it's on like bumper stickers, like everybody is very aware of it. So I a question that I ask a lot of the hitters specifically, but I'm pretty fascinated, I guess, on both ends. But for you, like how much is that mindset kind of, I don't want to say taught, but how much is that message like driven into everybody's head throughout the organization? How much is that, dominate the strike zone thing we hear about? How important is that to the people like the coaches and whatnot that are helping you guys?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's huge. I mean, it's Scott Harris came to us in spring training, and we had a meeting with all of the guys in the minor leagues, and he kind of talked to us and explained that to us in that meeting, and in the sense of like, you have to dominate each side of the strike zone, whether that's on defense or offense. And that's something that he kind of instilled into us. And I think that doing that is going to win games. I mean, I think that's going to, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, it's very, I mean, it's very straightforward. It's, you swing at the pitches you can hit, you don't strike out, you take your walks, you don't 3-ball chase, and everything makes perfect sense. And I think that was something that I needed to work on this past offseason, and it's something that this offseason I want to continue to work on, because I mean, it makes it, I don't want to say it makes it easier, because hitting's never easy.
Very hard.
But it makes your life easier, I guess. Sure. When you get into 2-1, 3-1 counts, 2-0 counts, it makes it a little bit easier on you if you can take some of those edge pitches that pitchers want you to swing at. So I think that was something, like I said, was instilled to us in spring training, and that was something that Scott Harris made very clear to us.
For sure. Well, that's awesome. That's fantastic insight. I think just throughout the last, like year and a half, it's just so fascinating to see people like yourself, and there's a handful of guys that have really like, it seems like, taken that message to heart. And like Justin Henry Malloy's a guy, like, he walks more than like anybody I've ever seen. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many people that have really, and you kind of do it in like I'm gonna do damage on, you know what I mean? Like, every ball in the zone. Like, there's different ways to dominate the strike zone. And I think that's the most fascinating part of the approach. Like, it doesn't just mean like walk more, right? Like, that's obviously part of it, but sure. I think so much of it is like that pitch selection. So seeing, like, for yourself, seeing your like batting average, which so many people these days think is like archaic and just, like, oh, like, how much do we really take stock in it? Seeing yours skyrocket and seeing all of your other stats, like the underlying numbers that people do care more about, also skyrocket with it. Like, I think that's just really cool to see, the mindset change between different people. And I think that you're a great example of the dominate the strike zone can mean a plethora of different things, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you mentioned Justin Henry Malloy. I mean, when I got to AAA, like you said, I mean, he walks. I mean, it was. I mean, you look at his numbers; it's unbelievable. Yeah. I mean, he had. I don't know how many he finished with, but 100 and something walks, along with like 20 something home runs. Yeah. I mean, he was somebody that was another thing when I got to AAA, kind of. Watching him and watching how he goes about his at bats was pretty cool, and it was pretty pretty fun to watch. He was somebody that I think really, obviously represents the dominate the strike zone part. He does an unbelievable job with it.
For sure. It was funny. We were watching the Futures game in Seattle, and obviously him and Keith made that, and the funny, just like the different approaches. Colt Keith went up there and he got a 4-pitch walk, and on the 4th pitch tried to like pretend swing so that he could stay in the batter's box. Right. Whereas Malloy walked twice, and on the second one was the only person in the game to challenge a pitch to draw a walk. Like, the difference in like mindset there is just very, very funny. And so, but again, like there's so many different ways to dominate the strike zone. I think that's such an important message. Like, it doesn't just mean walks. Like, what you and Keith do is like very much dominating the strike zone as well. And I think that's so fascinating. I want to shift also another thing that Scott Harris and this regime, Hinch as well, it starts at the top, has made very clear is they are very fond of defensive versatility. And so I think with you, someone who has played a few different positions in the lower levels and kind of climbing up, just talk about kind of, I guess, honestly, like a check-in. Like, where do you stand? Like, how are you feeling defensively? Like, where are you comfortable, and how much of that versatility do you kind of like pride yourself in?
Yeah, I mean, it's that's a huge deal. I mean, I think in 22 I played pretty much first base, with the occasional outfield, and then this year, kind of just moved to just outfield. And I think that was something that throughout this year, I had a big focus on was, really improving in the outfield position and working every day at that and continuing to improve each and every day, get live reads in the outfield during batting practice as much as you possibly can. Cause I think that's huge. And then, obviously getting a bunch of game reps was a huge help. Learning the position. I think that's the big thing is learning different situations and different things that happen during a game that you might not come up in practice or before the game. I think having those situations come up during the game, you make a mistake, you learn from it, and you don't make that mistake twice. I think that was a big thing for me is, really learning the position inside and out, and learning, left field and right field and trying to get as much experience and get as much, help from teammates, coaches, and everything that I could.
For sure. Well, I guess I have a similar question on the defensive side that I did on the offensive side. How much, because we had heard a lot throughout this season from the top, again, like in kind of the entire front office and coaching staff really drive home the fact that like defense matters, right? And this isn't just going to be like, oh, if you hit really well, you're just going to like skyrocket through. Like we really want players that are sound defensively. Like they talked about when before Parker got called up, they talked about like we want to maximize like base running ability as well. Like there's so many smaller things than just like how effective you are in the batter's box. So
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about like that mindset, whether it is like, like what you're focusing on, like how effective and efficient of a base runner you are, whether it is like range in the outfield. Just talk about the stuff outside of the batter's box that this organization is really driving home as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot more to baseball than just getting in the box and trying to do
For
damage.
sure.
I mean, that's something that you want to do. But I mean, there's so many parts of the game. I mean, there's countless things. I mean, base running, outfield. I mean, there's everything. There's a million things in base running that you can continue to work on and continue to get better. That's going to help win games. I mean, that's the goal, is to just win games. Do whatever you can do to help the team win, and whether that's base run, or whether that's play the outfield, or whether that's come in and hit, or whatever it is. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do to help the team win. And I think in spring training we do a lot of that stuff. We do a lot of the base running. We do a lot of outfield work. We do a lot of defense. That's something that is extremely important in helping win games. And I mean, you kind of see it, in the big leagues. I think, those guys, I mean, there's not many errors made at all. I mean, they're so, I mean, you watch a playoff game, and it's so impressive to see those infielders and outfielders, that how they do all these little things extremely well. And that's a huge thing, is paying close detail to everything in it, because everything matters. I mean, everything matters when, especially the higher you go up. I mean, the little things become bigger and bigger, and I think that's something that I've noticed kind of this past year or so in spring training and everything like that, is to how much we're being instilled into the, kind of these little things and everything like that. Cause it's, like I said, I mean, I can't say it enough, but that it wins games.
For sure. No, absolutely. And you had mentioned in their spring training, let's start looking ahead, and obviously, like, you don't know your own future. I'm not going to ask you anything like that, but just in your own goals and aspirations and maybe expectations isn't a word I'll use, but for your own, like what you expect out of yourself in 2024, like going into camp next year, kind of what's the mindset for you personally?
Yeah. I mean, I just want to continue to build off of, what I did this year. I think that at least, I think for me, at least, I mean, I'm probably my biggest critic,
Sure.
So I can look at myself in the mirror every night and know what I need to get better on. And I have a ton of things that I need to continue to work on. And I think that, going into, I think we only have about a week left in the fall league, but after this, kind of having like a little bit of a reset and realizing and focusing on what I need to do this off season to, be the best baseball player that I can be, all around baseball player, and hitting, defense, base running, anything that I need to do to, to continue to improve as a baseball player.
For sure. Absolutely. Well, I don't have too much else for you. I do want to ask just about you can get in some good graces here. Just talk about the Tigers organization as a whole. Like, obviously, from being drafted, you didn't go to like a massive school, and then just like coming into the Tigers organization. Just talk about how much this org has helped you, or maybe like this regime, especially. Obviously, that's most of your time here, but just talk about the Tigers organization as a whole, and kind of the impression isn't the right word because you're part of it, but the help that you've gotten. And we've talked a little bit about coaches earlier, but just talk about the organization and kind of the feel of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, I got drafted kind of out of a smaller school, and I couldn't be more grateful that the Tiger drafted me. And I mean, just I think in these past 2.5 years that it's probably been now, I mean, just the way that the Tigers have run and done everything has been, I mean, just like unbelievable. I mean, everything, you show up to spring training, and coaches are always, extra work, or, maybe, anything that they can do to help you as a player, everybody is willing to do. I mean, coordinators, coaches, everything. And it's just been it's been a great experience. I mean, there's not a single thing in the world that I would say that anything bad about the Tigers organization, because that's just, it's just been a great organization to play for. And I really couldn't be more grateful and blessed to be a part of this organization, and to hopefully help help the Tigers win some games.
Absolutely. Well, the last question I have for you is honestly, I used to call it a softball, and then I had a couple of guys say that I was like really putting them on the spot, and it was actually really difficult. But I usually ask. I don't have too many people that have played for 3 different levels in the same year, so it's a little bit, I guess, more difficult for you. But we'll just go Toledo for now, or Erie, whichever one you want. Favorite food at a minor league place that you played at in 2023. You can pick any of them, to be honest with you. Just favorite, whether it's a whatever sports bar, whatever it is. Favorite food you had this year.
Oh, that's a tough question. Yeah, that's a tough question. So, to be honest with you, it probably, I guess I wasn't really in Toledo for very long.
Right, yeah.
But in Erie, there was a couple of breakfast spots. But I think in West Michigan, there was a couple breakfast spots that me, Chris Myers, and Isaac Pacheco would always go to. And I cannot remember the name right now, but there was 2 different spots that we used to go to every single morning. And
I think we've seen. I think there was a picture of maybe it was Pacheco and Job. Like, Tigers Twitter got a hold of a picture of, I think it was just Job with a coffee outside of like a breakfast spot like that, and it like made the rounds, and everybody loved the picture because it was just Job like standing outside with a coffee. Everybody got a kick out of it. I'm assuming it might have been that. I don't remember the place of it either.
Yeah, I'm sure it was, because there was, I cannot remember the name of it for some reason right now, but there was a breakfast spot that we used to go to pretty much. I don't want to say every morning, but
sure,
the majority of the time. And the people in the place knew us. They knew, that we played for the Whitecaps and everything like that. And because you can't really, there's not really many dinner spots you can go to. You play at night, so it's a little bit difficult. But the breakfast spots we always used to go to.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll have to see. I'll have to see if that picture, because that was, I don't know why people got such a kick out of it. It was literally just Pacheco and Job like drinking coffee, but everybody thought it was like the funniest thing.
Right.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you carving out some time for me, for real.
Absolutely.
Be sure to fan vote Justice Bigbie, AFL All-Star, baby. Fan them.
That's right.
Get
That's
the
right.
word out there. Well, best of luck in 2024. We'll keep tabs on you. Hopefully another great year, and I appreciate you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course.